It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live.
Live.
WildEarth takes you on daily intimate experiences in nature live.
This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Join expert guides as they search for Africa's most iconic animals.
How awesome is this? She's coming right past our vehicle. Take a closer look here.
Oh, careful. Oh, no.
Ask your host questions and have them answered in real time. Join us live every day on WildEarth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jambo, and a very warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a very beautiful sunrise this morning. My name is Tim, and welcome aboard to your own safari live from the African wilderness. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. A very nice, beautiful sunrise it is. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Now, overlooking that side, we have a lion that is walking in the long grass. It's about 15 degrees Celsius and about 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that is one of the best sunrise I've seen so far. Look at how it's shining on the red hot grass. Beautiful. Just take a moment to sink this in as you watch the sun rising above the horizon. Very beautiful. So amid this long grass, the red hot grass, there's a lion that is walking. And before I take you to that lion, let me take you over to another live location. Jumbo, everyone. Another wonderful, beautiful morning here in the Masai Mara. And here I've come across a small herd of Cape buffalo. And I'm sure they're happy to be alive this morning and to see this wonderful, beautiful morning that you can see. The sun is just so beautiful. I cannot complain about anything. Well, Jambo everyone, my name is Isaac, and on camera we have Bungay. Our mission this morning is to try and find some cats. But to start with, we've come across this beautiful herd of buffalo, Cape buffalo, and looks like they've come to rest here because there is nothing much happening, and I can't blame them because it is very beautiful right now. And the sun has just risen, and so sitting still, they will actually get warm, and I think that's what they're really looking forward to. It's one of the smallest herds of Cape buffalo that we have around. We have about 4 herds around us, and this is one of the smallest. Usually they break away slowly from the bigger herds and form a small one. Eventually it becomes very big. This is an animal that is water dependent and also needs lots of food, to eat every day. And what you see here is a breeding herd. They have all their backs towards, most of them, towards the sun. I'm sure they are feeling, that warmth is just what they were looking for. The grass is full of dew, so it's not nice to be walking, although they will be walking later on, but it's better to stay still for them. Yeah, this is an animal that has got one of the longest gestation periods, about 11 months, and it gives birth to one almost every other year. It's a ruminant, so it will chew cud once it has filled up its rumen, and then when it fills up, it will swallow it. When then bacteria, breaks down the cellulose in the reticulum, and then it is taken to the obasum and the omasum, and then it comes out as waste, but it is not waste here, it is manure. Everywhere they stay like this, they will fertilize that spot at the same time as eat grass. So in the next couple of months, when they come, there will be plenty of, browse and grass for them. The cattle egrets have arrived, and they are on time because maybe in the next half hour or so, the buffaloes will be moving and they'll take full advantage of all the creepy crawlies trying to fly. We also have an oxpecker, if you see it close to that, cattle egret. It's a small bird. That bird is very associated with many grazers and some browsers like giraffe, eland, impala, buffalo, warthogs. They love them. They do get rid of ticks and mites and lice in these herbivores. So it's a symbiosis. We do have two types of oxpeckers in the Mara, the red-billed and the yellow-billed. Yeah, this is a bird also that nest on trees, and it can, over here, local people don't trust it. It can lead you to buffalo if you're trying to chase them away. So the local myth say if you see it alone and it calls, and don't you follow it like people follow the honey guides to find honey. This female here looks like he's thinking about what he's gonna do with me. Yeah, she's looking at me. Jake, how large do the males get compared to the females? Well, they can get up to around 900 kilos. Females get to around 700, so they're slightly smaller in size. They can be from 500 to 700 females, but males can get from that, 800 to 900 kilos. They are slightly bulkier. Even when you look at them, you'll see that is a good comparison. Look at that. Well, I don't know about the age there, but if you look at the size different, you will see that the guy to the back is very big. I would give him a good maybe 7-8 years, and he's very big. The female maybe could be 5, but you can tell the comparison. The horns are different, so the body size is different. So the males are slightly bigger than the females. This is typical to find them this early, resting like this, because during the night they need to be alert because of hyenas, leopards and lions, and this is a good time to just rest. Catch up with that much needed sleep that they didn't get during the night, and also it's safe. They can see as far, they can smell, so it's an added advantage to have all this, all these senses working, and it's very safe when they're together like this. Well, I think I'm gonna move on in search of my cats. Let's take you to another live safari vehicle. Come to the other side of the Mara, where we've come across this lion that was walking in the long grass. Look at the sun shining the golden light in the grass, very beautiful. So this lion just came out of a creek, just about 100 meters from where we are, and it seems like he's been feeding, and whatever they've been feeding has made them going for about 3 days. The rest of the Lolo Pride is just around there. We had them from Camp Raw all night, and seems like some of the Pride lionesses went to that direction he's facing. He's making a counter call, which is a soft growl. Remember, he's still not dominant, and we had other lions that came around this area, the ones from the marsh, the 4 that Isaac saw about 3 days ago. So if he tries to make a big roar, then he might Jackie, thank you so much for your question. The reason why he's alone, he's still young. He's about 3.5, and mostly when lions get to this age, especially males, they're always kicked out of their own pride area. So he's alone, and before he teams up making his own coalition and making a pride, becoming a pride male, he has about 2.5 years to go. So luckily, we've been seeing him with Olalashe, but seems like Olalashe is not around at the moment yet. So the good thing is he's been mating with some of the Ololo lionesses, and at least they've welcomed him in this area. So before he becomes a pride male and a dominant male for any pride, he has to be big enough. So at the moment, he's been walking around by himself. Whenever male intruders come into pride territory areas, the youngsters like him always shy off and walk away, because when they come in, the big roar and their size, it's always intimidating to such kind of lions. And if they come across him because you are 4, he is going to face it rough. And that's the reason why he's walking out of these territory areas, just to sneak into where lions at this age become nomadic. And sometimes, unfortunately, they become scavengers as well. You have other people coming to enjoy this sighting. It's the first sighting of the day, just about 10 minutes from camp. Very nice to see him. I'd say he's quite lucky because the Ololo Pride lionesses have welcomed him, and he sometimes walks around with them. Normally, this is unusual. It never happens. So you find that mostly lions at the age of him who will be out walking by themselves, they become nomadic, they become what we call marauding lions. So they'll take anything that comes their way. They scavenge. Sometimes you see them feeding with hyenas. Sometimes, you see them feeding after other pride lions have eaten. So, I reckon he's going to form a coalition with the Olalashe. So, it will be good to see, because when they walk, the two of them, it's going to be a stronger bond, where they'll be actually patrolling all this territory. But in the meantime, I'm going to watch this lion and see where he's going to take us as I take you over to another live location. Jambo. Niaje? Unona?
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where we've managed to find a secretary bird sitting out in the open grasslands. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this morning is Craig, and you'll see the weather's looking pretty gloomy behind us. There's a bit of rain forecast for today. We're going to be exploring some of the grasslands here in the hope of live. Very special though to have found the secretary bird, and you've joined us just in time, it looks like. It was resting, but look at it now, it's starting to walk around. We spotted the secretary bird, or this secretary bird, from quite a way away, and on a closer inspection with the binoculars, it looks like there might even be two there. Probably a male and female pair. There we go, there's the second one, behind the bush. See the two of them together there? They would have no doubt spent the night roosting somewhere close by, probably atop a tree. But now look at how they're starting to walk, with their heads kind of facing towards the ground, every now and then turning their head from side to side, scanning the ground for any signs of prey. On a chilly morning like today, more than likely things like insects, maybe some grasshoppers, some beetles. But if they come across a lizard or even a snake, that will also do just fine. They keep kind of circling each other and looking at each other. Liza be me, you're saying that secretary birds are just the coolest. Liza be me, they are just fantastic. They are the most bizarre looking bird of prey, almost like something that you would expect to see in a science fiction movie. With that head of an eagle, the body of an eagle, but then the legs of a stork. Such a bizarre combination, but like you say, yeah, just amazing to see. It seems like they're still kind of getting started for the morning. They haven't really started to move around that much. Often when these secretary birds really get moving and they start hunting properly, they can cover a lot of ground on foot. They walk quite quickly. Like I said, they'll be scanning the whole time, looking for food. I think Craig and I are going to spend a bit of time with these secretary birds, and we might try for a slightly better position where we can see them a bit better, and we'll call you back if we manage to get a better view of it.
Dumela! Hello and welcome to a wonderful and brisk morning here at Tswalu Kalahari. My name is Kyle, good morning, and behind camera is David. Yes! Wonderful start to the morning, a bit of cloud cover, nice and brisky, and then obviously this beautiful, beautiful male bull giraffe. Busy taking it easy, little nibble. We are up here for this morning is that we're going to go and find those little rock stars because they evaded us yesterday. We will hold them accountable today. So that's our plan of action for this morning, is to find the rock stars, and then we're going to come a little further east towards the pan and see what birds we can find, maybe some insects after a little bit of rain that we had touch the dry Kalahari sands yesterday afternoon. See, he's got a damaged left ear there. This little piece that's hanging, more than likely from contact from another male. So a bit of fighting. It's not uncommon to find bulls with scars, nicks. You can see on his rump there as well. He's got a few nicks. And that's from the action of fighting. You also have in areas where oxpeckers will keep the wounds open for so long that they actually increase in size and they become as prominently as displayed in picture. It's also got a wonky ossicone. You can see how he's listening to us as well. Ears pointed directly towards us. Very neat tool, that, being able to rotate your ears backwards to listen for anything behind you. Oh, well, we're going to send you off to another location. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
Good morning, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here on the western fringes of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park, where a hyena is sleeping in the rainy dawn. My name is Jomez Hendrai, and on camera today we have got Niels, the Hood from Pretoria. It's marvellous to be with you again here in the wilderness. And what we are doing is staking out a spot where Tswalu the leopardess has a duiker stashed in a tree. She has eaten roughly half of this duiker, and she is not here at the moment, but this hyena is hoping that she's going to drop some on the ground. Now, the other interesting bit of good news this morning is that the great Lex Hess, who has been a guide in these parts for nigh on, I don't know, it feels like 4 centuries now, well, it's probably slightly shorter than that, managed to follow Tswalu yesterday evening back to a den site. It's a den site on Simbambili, and she definitely has 1 cub left. So that is good news. I know that many of you witnessed that horrendous incident with poor Tristan when the hyena killed one of Tswalu's cubs. I don't think it was this hyena, it was June. I don't think this is June, but it might be. And Tristan thought there may be another cub, but when I spoke to him last night, he really wasn't that sure. And Lex has confirmed Tristan's suspicions. So Tswalu does have another cub, which is good news. Hopefully we'll see her in the next little while. We'll scratch a little bit around here and then maybe go off and come back a bit later to see what's happening. Thank you very much for your kind welcomes back. The bush has changed over the last 2 weeks or so. It was just sort of flushing a bit when I left, and now it's in full dense summer flush. And I'm hoping this weather is not going to stick around for too long, because we'd like some pretty light and that sort of thing. Now, what that hyena is looking up at is the squabbling and babbling of a flock of arrow-marked babblers. And I suspect the reason that the hyena is looking towards the arrow-marked babblers is that it's wondering if they're alarm calling or just having a territorial dispute. I'm doing the same, because they will alarm call if they see a leopard. You see, that's what she's looking at. I don't think the hyenas did themselves any favours with the murder of poor old Tswalu's cub, but it is the way and natural order of things. So we'll stake out things here and see what happens.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond Ngala, where it's a very cloudy day, a little bit rainy, but it's much cooler than it normally is, or much cooler than yesterday and the day before. And we are currently driving a road right next to the riverbed. And as you can see, it's quite dense around us, and we're looking for leopard this morning. Now, myself, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we have Owen. And we thought we'd set out this morning to try and look for leopard, because on a cloudy day, contrary to popular belief, the cats are actually quite active. They are a little bit more tricky to track and to find, but they do enjoy, or they do operate when it's more cool like this. In fact, it counts in their favor quite a bit, because the cats do not like the heat. Yesterday we had 2 lions and they were sleeping all day because of the heat, even though they were mating. And maybe later this morning we might try and go look for those ones. But we're hoping that we might have some luck here, and even if we just find signs, we can go from there.
Well, good luck, Yappy, with finding a leopard. But I have come to, I've found these 3 hippos that are very far out of water. And now that I'm talking, the farthest one has heard me, and it's trying to concentrate and really pick up if it's human talking. Yes, the weather is not hot, so it is still very perfect for hippos to be out of water. And as you can see, they were grazing, and I hope they go back to their business because I mean no harm. But in the heat of the day, they will be in the water. They spend about 13, 14 hours in the water, and a good number of hours, maybe around 8 to 7 hours in the water, outside grazing. These guys are still out, and it's already over the time that they're supposed to go back. Conditions are perfect, so there's nothing to worry about. You can still tell their backs are a little bit moist or wet. I would say that is from the the cold of the night. So the heat is not affecting them at all. They seem to have froze. I think it's because they can hear me. I don't know if they will relax if I tone down a little bit. This could be a bull and 2 females, or a female with her 2 offsprings, the new one and the previous one, because outside of water, hippos graze alone or they are solitary. But maybe they found each other on their way towards their pod, and they're giving each other company towards the pod. But it is irresistible to miss out on that last bite, so they're still, feeding as they head towards the water. Yeah, hippos live a very long time, but I've never seen a really old one. They say they live up to around 30, 40 years. Yes, and this is an animal, actually, that is very, very dangerous. It used to kill most people than malaria in Africa. Malaria is caused by mosquito, and it used to kill people a lot until, it has been eradicated by measures put in by different bodies. But the hippo still, causes more deaths in Africa than any other animal. They possess an anger equivalent to none and can charge without warning, and they're very, very aggressive. What animal prey on hippo? Mainly it is lion. They are the only one courageous enough to attack hippos, but it takes a good number of them to bring one down. Occasionally, young ones are taken by crocodiles, but it is rarely, witnessed, but they will take one if unattended, separated or lost. Crocodiles will take advantage of a young one, but lion is the biggest predator. In Kenya, in northern side, a place called Lake Turkana, there is a tribe called El Molo. I think they are one of the smallest tribes in Africa. The estimate is around 400 remaining. They mainly feed on hippos. Yes, and these hippos, these guys have mastered a way of hunting the hippo. So they are one of the few tribes that eat hippo, and then lion is the main one. The tradition with these guys is dying off because they are getting influenced by, other cultures. So it's dying off, but they were the only ones that I knew went directly for the hippo as a source of food. Look at the one to the left, how he bites the grass. He chews and like swings his head left, right, left, right. I think it's easier to rip grass that way. They have a very hard pad or lips that are able actually to pull grass that's very short, almost to the ground. But here, they're very, very comfortable with this long grass. I don't know if you've noticed that the one to the right has sort of froze for quite a long time. This is a mechanism where they stay still, hoping to find out what's happening, who's talking, who's getting close to them, and then they can attack. Looks like there has been a decision is to get away from human or talking human and head towards the safety of their pod or maybe the bushes. I believe inside those bushes there's a pool because they're always heading in there. There are places nobody has ever gotten into, and one of them is inside that spot there. The population of hippos actually is increasing every day because, there is a lot of food for these guys to feed on. And the reason I say that is we are seeing more out of water and into small man-made holes here and there. And so I think the population is increasing, which is very, very good. Like you can see here, these ones I've never seen them here, but they are here. So definitely it is doing very well. Remember, they have no threats. Lions would only go for them when they're really, really desperate. But they risk a lot because, hippos are not easy to bring down, or is not one of those animals that they just take down. No, looks like they don't want anything to do with me. I'm gonna let you enjoy that sight as I prepare to move on.
So welcome back to this part of the Mara where this lion has not left this place. It seems like he's looking over to the right of the screen, and I think the rest of the lionesses that they were about here went to that area. I've seen some vultures actually landing towards the forest just behind where he's facing. So I think they might have had a big meal. Probably maybe a buffalo, because they've been hanging around there for about 2-3 days. He seems to be shy since yesterday, and I think that the reason being those meals that came in here. So the only friend that he has is Olalashe, and I don't know where Olalashe is because yesterday I saw him about 3 kilometers from where we are. Look at his stomach. He's trying to locate the rest of the Leopard lionesses. So I'm just going to change position so that we can be able to follow him. So as I try to follow this lion, let's see where he'll lead us to. Let me take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to andBeyond, Phinda. Craig and I have been following these two secretary birds. Like I said, they were going to get a bit more active in terms of their moving around and hunting, and that's exactly what they've done. They've started to walk quite quickly along the ground, kind of moving in the more open area. You just see that one there behind the bush. Here he comes, out into the road in front of us. See the impalas behind him there? It was quite funny. The impalas spotted the secretary bird and they started to alarm call at it. Now, a secretary bird is no danger to an impala, but the impalas obviously saw it and weren't quite sure what it was. Here comes the second bird flying in from the right. It seems like they've fanned out a little bit. They're not walking as close together as they were initially, trying to cover more ground. Look at how that one is a lot brighter in terms of its plumage than the one on the left. And I wonder if this is maybe not an adult bird, and then the duller one may be a juvenile, maybe its previous chick. Having a look through my binoculars, their feathers do look a little bit dirty. They've got a bit of a red tinge to them from the red soil here. Maybe from where they've been lying down on the ground. They've taken on that bit of red soil. There we go, both of them together. So 50, you're saying that the secretary bird has got quite a unique walk. I suppose they do. It almost reminds me of a high school principal or high school exam invigilator pacing up and down along in between the rows of desks with their hands behind their backs, looking to see if anyone is cheating or using some crib notes. There we go. There he goes, walking out into the road. See how much brighter this one is in terms of... Oh, no, it's just gone behind the bush. Let's see how much more vibrant that one's plumage is than the one on the right. Also, looking through the binoculars at their faces, the skin on that brighter one is definitely a lot more colourful. And that brings me back to a question that I was asked yesterday. Tav R, if you're watching, yesterday you were asking about the color of the feet of a black-winged kite and asking why the black-winged kite has those brightly colored feet. And then we went through the bird book and we noticed that quite a couple of birds of prey have got either orange or yellow feet or talons and legs, and then yellow or orange sears, kind of the skin around the face. And oh no, apparently we're going to go across to Djuma. There's something exciting going on there.
Good morning again. We've found Shidulu. Shidulu has arrived. Clearly, that's her there. And we were very lucky. It was those babblers. Those babblers are what alerted us to her presence and the hyena. And so we just kind of looked around where the babblers were initially shouting, and there she was, lying on the ground. And now she is having her breakfast. Here comes the hapless hyena has just arrived below the tree. Bad luck, chum. I'm afraid you're a bit late. So we're not going to show you right now, but the hyena is just sort of lurking at the bottom of the tree, looking hopeful. And I don't think it's going to have any luck. I think that duiker is well and firmly ensconced in the tree. As the rain starts to fall here, I seem to have brought with me some fairly foul weather, but that's okay. We've got a leopard and the kill and the hyena. No, Diana, I don't think that Shidulu would take vengeance on the hyena. She's not going to be plotting some kind of long-term revenge on the hyena. It is just something that happens out here. And, we could go into a lengthy discussion about what Shidulu felt when she lost her cub. But there won't be a plotting of revenge. She certainly would have attacked an animal smaller than her if that animal had threatened her cub. But it's not uncommon for leopards to lose their cubs to hyenas, and that's because they just do not take the risk to fight hyenas off to the death. They will chase them and sometimes bite them, but, if the hyena turns and faces the leopard and pushes through an attack, the leopard will back off, because the old classic is that the leopard cannot take a risk, because there's no point in her fighting a hyena and getting injured, because the cub would die anyway. And, once the cub is lost, I'm sure that we could say that there was a feeling of what might be translated in human terms as sadness, but I don't believe that would then extend to some kind of attempt at revenge. It's an interesting question. I think the more we understand animals, the more we realize that they do feel human, the equivalence. Sorry, I just got a strange announcement in my ear. Anyway, so we don't know for sure if they do feel human emotions, or what might be termed human emotions, but the more we understand animals, the more we realize that they do have some kind of equivalent feeling. But I don't think that would extend to a feeling of revenge, or the need for revenge. It's quite interesting. I suppose that if we were to look at it from an evolutionary point of view, I suppose the instinct in human beings to take revenge on animals, or not on animals, on things that harm them, I suspect has got a lot to do with preventing it happening again. Here comes another hyena. So humans taking revenge on other humans, I think, is to try and prevent similar attacks occurring. And I wonder if you do find revenge attacks in primates, you may well. I suspect that in more sophisticated primates like chimpanzees, maybe even baboons, you would have feuds. You definitely have situations in baboon troops where certain males will never get on with each other, and others will quite often get on with each other. So a lovely question that could lead us down a road of fascinating discussion, so thank you very much for that. We'll stay here. We have now got 2 hyenas at the base. We'll see what they do.
All right, look at these beautiful, playful, jackal puppies. Yeah, look at that. They're just happy to be together and alive this morning. Very playful. Look at that. It's just superb. I estimate they're about 3 months old, and they're almost getting their adult colors. You can see the black stripes is almost coming out. The gray is getting like very prominent, very pronounced, and they are sharpening their fighting skills, their jaws, their little muscles. Sometimes these fights are very playful, but then they erupt into full fights, and they square off, biting and clawing each other, and then it comes down. Here it looks like the 2 are really into each other, but the other one is just refereeing. Now they are going to spoil the whole thing because they're going to go under the car, and I won't be able to show you. You know, they're right here. It's amazing. It's so super. Yeah, look at these big ears. Yeah, the pointy nose looks like a coyote or a jackal. They are related to the dogs. Look at this. Yes, they are very big now. I don't know for how much longer we'll be seeing them, but it's so nice to see them this playful. Remember, this is a herbivore, sorry, omnivore. They will eat meat as well as fruits. They will eat them, and berries. They'll eat. Jackals will eat that. Also, they're very good hunters. For many years, they were mistaken to be, scavengers. They are not. Adult jackals are very successful. Look at that. They're looking right at the vehicle. We might lose them if they go under the vehicle. They will hunt, small prey like scrub hares, birds, lizards, grasshoppers, and when really forced, they will hunt, Thompson's gazelle, young Impala fawns. They will go for those. So they're very, very successful. They also do play a very big role in cleaning up all those old carcasses. They will also eat them. So they are very essential in the whole ecosystem. The big ears help them detect any danger, or if mom is calling from a distance, maybe she's got a kill and she can't bring it to them, she will call and they can hear it from a very, very long way. One negative side of these jackals is that they are known to carry most diseases that affect other carnivores, like rabies. They are the ones that, carry these diseases. But they can be very, very vocal when they want to. They are associated with kills, so when you see them, you will see some kills. Yeah, well, this is such a wonderful sighting, guys. I think I'll stay here for a little bit longer.
Welcome back to andBeyond, Phinda. The secretary birds are still busy feeding their way across the grassland in front of us, and we're losing view of them as they go over that hill there. But I just wanted to finish getting back to you, Tav R, about the question that you asked about the black-winged kite's feet and about the birds of prey having the brightly coloured legs and brightly coloured faces. And the information that I could find was that obviously birds of prey being animals or being predators, they need to be able to in some way or another sneak up on their prey. And if they are brightly coloured, it's going to be very tough for them to hide and camouflage, and they'll get noticed by their prey. But they also still need to be able to show to prospective mates that they're mature and that they're healthy. And so that's apparently why they've got those brightly coloured, that brightly coloured cere, that skin on the face, the brightly coloured bit of the bill there, and then the brightly coloured legs as well. Apparently also a bird of prey that normally has, say for example, a black-winged kite, apparently if it gets sick, or if it's deficient in certain kinds of elements and minerals, it'll lose that coloration in its talons and in its face, and then that's then an indication that it's not very healthy. Of course, those pigments being caused by, or those colours being caused by carotenoids. But there they go, heading up the hill, those two secretary birds. And they could walk for kilometres and kilometres today as they search for food. Tarzan, you're asking if these secretary birds are part of the stork family? No, they're not. They are birds of prey. They are raptors. They are similar to storks in that they've got those long legs, but then very different in the shape of their bill, and I suppose also in their hunting habits. They're quite similar to some species of storks, how they walk around on the ground a lot and then use their eyesight to detect potential prey. Have a look at those impala. It looks like the impala are still watching the secretary birds with interest.
This is
But with that, I think we've had a lovely sighting of these two secretary birds this morning, and Craig and I are going to leave them as they continue to forage across the grassland, and we're going to go see what else we can find for you this morning.
And we've come across this very, very relaxed hyena. Just have a look at that size of that belly. And the size of those ears. Now this is quite an interesting sight, because if you have a look at those ears, you can see there's quite a few cuts. And make you wonder, where has this animal been? In fact, if I look at the shoulder, the belly, and even the hindquarters, I can see quite clear spots. And that's an indication that this hyena, even though she's got chapped ears and the face already bears the marks of a very active life, she's probably not that old. When she lifted the head just now, you could see a little bit of the mane on the neck. And what a nice spot, right on the sand, small little sandy site in the middle of a clearing. I know something our viewers can't see at this point. Off to our left there's a small little puddle of water. And on a hot day, this hyena will probably come and wallow, or at least lay down in the water to cool herself down. But today we have an overcast day. It's a little bit cool. The wind is blowing quite steadily, and I think that's why she's laying down, along with the fact that she ate something quite large, or quite a lot, and the belly's quite full. And she's probably got young ones as well. Looks like a mammary gland that's quite swollen. She's probably suckling some cubs. What a nice spot. On the soft sand, right out in the open. This is a perfect spot. It's not too far from the riverbed. And you'll notice the ears moving. Like every now and again she's looking around, and that's just because with this wind there's a lot of movement around.
Good morning, station.
So from here she'll be able to hear anything that might be of worth. There's a lot of game trails coming and crossing this exact spot where she is. And what's interesting about it is that we suspect that there might be a hyena den somewhere nearby, but we're not sure exactly where. So who knows, maybe this is one of the females with youngsters there.
Shidulu is now feasting upon her duiker. The two hyenas have been disappointed pretty much completely, except for a few bits of hair that she's dropped down, that the young hyena below, the one that we saw earlier, has swallowed. Delightful to have a bit of hair tasting of rotting meat for breakfast. She's now setting to the second half of the duiker, its torso and spinal column. What's quite cool about this particular view is that I don't know how many of you recall the sighting of Thandi that we had just before I left last time, but she was in a tree eating a duiker as well, and I got a photograph of her with her bottom teeth perfectly in view. And Thandi is 14 now, and her teeth are like blunt chisels at the bottom, whereas Shedulu's, being much younger, are still like daggers. But it's interesting that they both seem to be just as kind of effective as each other. So Shedulu is 6 at the moment. And she's got, perfect white dagger-like teeth. Thandi Thandi's teeth looks like she's a heavy coffee drinker and possibly a smoker. They're yellow and very blunt from years of use. I suspect the yellowness is just kind of a genetic thing. I don't think it's got anything to do with age, maybe a little bit to do with age. But she's definitely got some of the yellower teeth that I've ever seen on a leopard, whereas Shedulu's got pristine white ivories. Now where are we going, my dear? Some movement. She has chosen quite a place to sit. I mean, we're quite near a whole lot of fairly comfortable looking marula trees, but she's chosen one that is, well, thin. It's lean in its build. And so there's nothing really very comfortable for her to lie on. Maybe the hyenas have picked up on that, and that's why they're lurking here. I always do feel it's necessary at a juncture like this to also mention the poor old duiker who has snuffed it for the cause. And we've talked a lot about Shedulu and her cub and how devastating it was for, no doubt, her and all of us who are involved in Shedulu's life to watch her cub killed like that. We don't seem to feel the same sense of sympathy for this duiker who suffered the same fate as the cub. Now, why is that? Is that because it's a herbivore and we expect it to be eaten? We eat herbivores ourselves? Is it because this duiker is an adult, maybe? And the cub was so young? I don't know. But I assure you that for the duiker, the experience was much the same. I think it's quite interesting to think about. I suspect it has got quite a lot to do with the fact that we are often meat eaters ourselves, and for the most part we are eaters of herbivorous animals as opposed to predators. And obviously the main reason is that we are not intimately involved in the lives of the duikers. We see them from time to time, but we can't identify them one from the other. But we know these cats so intimately. Yes, Peter, there's certainly a chance of the breakfast falling, there's no question, because she's on a scraggly branch. But she's pretty skilled. She's pretty skilled at what she's doing. I think if it was a cub, it would almost certainly drop. But because she isn't, she's a experienced adult, you'll probably find it'll survive. Yeah, and that leg, if you just to the left of your screen there, that leg is hanging there on its own precariously. I don't know about you, but I feel that Shidulu is looking particularly yellow at the moment. And I don't mean in a jaundiced way, I mean in a kind of beautifully honeyed golden way. So, we'll see what plays out.
You're back with us here at andBeyond Phinda, where Craig and I have managed to find 2 elephant bulls that are busy feeding their way through the cool of morning. Have a look at that bull nearer to us. Look at how big his one tusk is and how big his body is. Got a really big, rounded forehead. And that one behind him, I know we can't see him too well now. I don't know if you managed to get a quick glimpse of him though as he was approaching us. You would have seen that he had pretty small, thin tusks. A much younger, much smaller bull. That is probably yet to come into his prime. For the time being, just following this older bull around for company and also learning the ways of the bush from him. Some of you may recognize this particular bull. He is that older elephant with only the one tusk. He's just got one tusk on the right-hand side of his head. Left hand one broken off some years ago, possibly in a fight with another elephant bull, possibly whilst using it to break off bark or maybe dig for roots. Out here in these open plains, because of the relative lack of large trees and because of how open it is, we managed to spot these bulls from quite a way away. One of my favorite things about driving in these open plains is that you can really use your binoculars to good effect and scan in search of animals. See how slowly this elephant is moving. Going from bush to bush, looking for the best food, the most nutritious food. Of course, in all the greenery here, there's just food in abundance for these elephants. So they won't have to travel too far to get enough to eat. In comparison to the drier times of a few months ago, and this time of the year, this part of the reserve, it's an area that's often favored by these elephant bulls. It's away from the herds of females who tend to spend more time up in the north of our reserve at this time of year, where there's lots of big trees, lots of fruiting trees. Although with the rain that we've been having and with the cold air blowing in from the southwest, you might start to see that the herds start to move into these plains too, especially as we start getting more and more green grass growing down here. Wouldn't that be exciting to get to see big herds of elephants out here on the plains? But for now, there's the second bull, the young bull that's busy approaching from the back there, following behind the older bull. Be quite nice if they do end up standing next to each other so we can get an idea for the size difference. Not so much in terms of physical height, but in terms of just sheer bulk. Look at this bull and how his belly hangs quite low down to the ground, certainly below his or almost below his elbows and where his knees would be as well. Just a sign of him being in his prime, having that big filled out bulk. That bull on the left still looking like his legs are a little bit too long for his body. And then, like I said, a much smaller head, much thinner trunk and smaller tusks. You see the older bull taking a moment to defecate. And every now and then just flapping his ears gently. Look at how he's holding his ears out to the side now. There's still, like I said, the south wind that's blowing, coming from the left of your screen to the right-hand side. And so by holding his ears out like that, he's got this cool wind blowing over those very thin ears, all the blood vessels, helping to keep him nice and cool. Just moving very slowly, in no rush at all. So much food to go around. These two won't have to do too much walking today. And very often, because we're not quite there just yet, but we're getting to the greener times of the year when the vegetation is going to be a lot lusher. It's already starting to turn more green, but it's not quite at its peak just yet. But it's going to be a lot lusher and a lot more nutritious. And so this time of the year, elephants often don't have to eat as much as they normally would in order to maintain their bulk and maintain their physical condition. Striped horse, you're asking an interesting question. You're asking if there's any kinds of vegetation that elephants won't eat. Striped horse, I can't think offhand of any particular tree that I have not seen an elephant eating. I was going to say even the plants that most herbivores will ignore, they'll still go and feed on. And obviously things like hard wood they'll ignore. They'll just focus, if they are eating wood, they'll just feed on the bark, the growing layer, the cambium layer of the tree. But striped horse, I can't think offhand of any trees that I haven't seen an elephant feeding on. There will be certain times of year where they tend to ignore certain kinds of vegetation. But them being so big and having those massive molar teeth just built for grinding up plant matter, there's not much that's out of their reach. I think Craig and I are going to spend a little bit more time with these two elephant bulls just to see what they get up to, and it'll be really nice if we can get a slightly better view of them, maybe a bit more out in the open. So we're going to hang around here for a bit and see where they go.
Yes, welcome back on board here at Tswalu Kalahari. And we have success this morning already. We have located this little group, the rock stars. So they have moved about 4 or 5 kilometers from the burrow system that they've been using quite frequently. This burrow they haven't used in a while because of other threats. They actually got attacked here by a rattle, or what we call here in South Africa a badger, honey badger. So they haven't been at this burrow system for quite a while, and they've decided now to use it again. But a really spectacular spot they have here. You can see it's a little bit chilly by the position of this meerkat, how it's got itself hunched up, trying to keep its body warmth as close as possible. They don't want to obviously open up and allow that body warmth to evade it. of communication there. Doop. Sure. So a little bit breezy this morning, and obviously this would set the... Fantastic. We're very happy as well. I was talking to David and saying to David, oh my word, I hope they are here. So we had a little bit of rain late afternoon yesterday, and coming here to the burrow system, we had an idea that they were here, but looking at the burrow system, I could not see one single track. And I said to David, deep down, I hope they are here. And thank you, Mother Nature, they are. So we are just as ecstatic as everybody else. So the wind is definitely a factor that would put them a little bit on edge this morning. You can see as soon as that breeze came up, that little meerkat made its way straight back underground. So it definitely puts them on edge, and they would be a little bit more nervous than they would be on a nice, cool, calm day. Obviously, their hearing is affected. Scent would be blown around quite a lot. Oh, David, yeah, literally on your left-hand side, yeah, David. Oh, just hold on, folks. This chap has decided to use another burrow entrance and has come up right in front of us. Fantastic question there. How deep are these burrows? So they range between about a half a meter to about 1.5 meters in depth. And you'll have your good morning, guys. So between 0.5 and about 1.5 meters, they would vary. Obviously, it's a nice stable environment, and then these burrows will be interlinked with one another. So you could see how the meerkats went down in front of David, and then they migrated underground and popped up here on his left-hand side, literally a meter away from him right now. So it just allows them multiple chances to evade a predator, having these interconnected or linked tunnels within these extensive warren systems. It's a very efficient way of evading predation, but then also keeping nice and warm at night time. This auntie's tummy looks big here, David. This is a female, the one that's sitting on her bum. Her tummy is looking very round. By my quick, this one right over here. By me looking very quickly, I think she's pregnant. It wouldn't be uncommon for her to be pregnant. I mean, meerkats through favorable times can have 3-4 litters in a year. But that is depending on the resources. So if it's favorable times, plenty of food, they can have multiple litters. And then through leaner times, through a year, not even having a litter at all. But that belly is very round. That's not her legs, that's her actual stomach. The nipples are fairly prominent. You got a nice view there. I think from that angle it's a little bit tricky. So we might have, there we go, but better. Oh, okay, let me not move. And so hopefully she is pregnant. That'll be fantastic if she is. So she'll more than likely stay around this area. Between 60 and 70 days is the gestation period of these little animals. That's fairly quick. And on the news, how many meerkats can live in one burrow? That is determined on the colony size and then the extensive system itself. So you can have colonies of up to 30 individuals in one colony. That's a very large group. And colonies will grow to a size where vocal communication becomes a problem while foraging. So if the group gets to a size of 20, 25, 30 individuals, and then communication and keeping everybody safe becomes a bit of a problem, that's when these groups will start breaking off in small, what they refer to as splinter groups. These will be individuals that are going to go start new colonies, or they want a chance to be an alpha male or female to have a bit more breeding accessibility. So big colonies, up to 30, 40 individuals can be found in a group of meerkats. And a burrow system like we're at the moment is a fairly extensive system. There must be about 20 holes, so entrances going underground. So it's an extensive system. And obviously a large group like that will have multiple burrow systems within their colony. Wow, this is fantastic. So using that tail to prop themselves up properly, obviously to absorb as much solar radiation to warm up now. And also with this wind they'll be losing a lot of heat fairly quickly. So you want to warm up. Her tummy is big, David. Yeah, this female that's standing upright, just sat now on her bum, is pregnant, folks. So that is fantastic news. So hopefully the next coming few days or a week or so, we might have these meerkats becoming very static at a burrow system, and then we know that she has given birth to a litter. Otherwise, their general behavior is nomadic, so moving from one burrow system to another each night. But when she is pregnant and she's about to give birth, they remain locked to a burrow system. Obviously a system where she feels most comfortable to rear these young pups. Excuse me. We are going to send you to another incredible location on this incredible continent, and we'll see you shortly.
It's always nice and beautiful watching meerkats. So here we've come to this small herd of elephants, and it seems like they're doing or taking their daily routine coming towards the marsh. Now as the days get warmer, hot and drier, we see the change in elephants coming towards the marsh. So recently they've begun coming early, as opposed to when it was raining. They used to come at around noon, or sometime they'll come in the afternoon. But because lots of game went past here, we had lots of zebras, we had lots of wildebeest, so the grass is slowly wiped out. So you can see them walking towards the marsh. We have lots of families actually that have went past, and they're heading to the marsh. So the elephant with one tusk, that is the matriarch. And you can tell everyone is following her instincts, her communication. You can see they're all heading towards one direction. They always follow whatever the matriarch says. If it's time to rest, if it's time to graze. And especially when they have the calves. See that young calf there trying to copy what the rest of the members are doing. And there's a big bull there. I think he came over to investigate what's going on, if some of the females are in estrus, and then he will wander off. You can see there's about 4 other bulls. Debbie, thank you for your question. Yes, the elephant will feel pain when the tusks break, because they also have cavity on, just like our teeth. So from the lip towards halfway midway of the tusk, it's always very sensitive. And sometimes we've seen elephants who sometimes that the tusk might be trimmed because of animal conflict, where we have elephants going into farmland. So there's an elephant bull I knew up in northern Kenya called Mountain Bull. He had his tusk chopped off or maybe trimmed, so they had actually to trim it in a very precise limit because they didn't want to affect the cavity line. So yes, when the elephant tusk break, they actually can feel the pain. You can see that bull there. Jackie, it's very interesting with elephants. So the eldest or the biggest matriarch, and then the second one, which might be, so most of the time become their sisters, so they always become the matriarch. But it's very interesting with elephants because when a matriarch leaves or maybe dies, let's say for natural causes, so the rest of the herd will actually sometime vote who they want to be the matriarch. They always want the suitor who they will think that will be the matriarch. But then most of the time, the second in command, the elder sister from the matriarch becomes the matriarch. But if the family doesn't want her to be the matriarch, then they always vote and follow whoever they want to be the matriarch. Very interesting. You can tell there's a communication that went through. They would slowly turn back to the left. And that big bull has come to join the family here. So big bulls like that sometimes will come back once in a while to their natal herds, and then they always leave and head back to the bachelor herds. You can see how slowly he's walking behind them. So if you want to tell the difference between bulls and cows, you just see the bulls are always taller than the cows. You can see his size compared to the rest of the herd. They have very rounded heads, while the females have a little bit like a rectangular head. So it's easy to tell when they mix up in a herd. So I'm just going to watch these elephants here. Seems like they're walking slowly, and I'd really love them to come and walk past the vehicle because there's something going on there. They've all stopped. They placed the young ones in the middle. So let me take you over to another live location.
Well, from elephants and back to jackals. And these ones are different jackals. They are not the ones I shared with you earlier. You can tell these ones are younger. And these ones are 4 of them. It's a new find for us. And it's so wonderful. It means that the 3 we saw earlier, or the ones we've been seeing, will find a mate each from these guys. I don't know what's their gender, but definitely it is an added advantage to have a pair or another set of puppies nearby. These ones are much shyer and smaller. Look at them, you can see. There is one with no tail completely. I don't know what happened to it. It's hiding somewhere behind. It's one of the shyest amongst the four, and I cannot blame him. Maybe that traumatized him, and he hasn't gotten used to anything that's approaching them. He was somewhere there earlier, but he left. I'm hoping that it's gonna come back so we can share this beautiful sighting, with you guys. There are 4 of them. They seem to be around 3 months. The other ones are about 4 months. And so the difference doesn't actually really matter because they can find partners. Yeah, this is the silverback jackal. Continue talking to us, #WildEarth. Question, comments are very welcome. Yeah, jackals have got very big, home ranges, and they'll wander far and wide in search of anything to eat, from fruit, berries, and carcasses. Also, they will hunt for parents. They'll always come back, with something to their puppies. I'm gonna try and move forward a little bit. Hopefully, I can share a picture of all 4 of them because it's so sweet. It's so amazing to see 4 new ones for us. But this is a very, very hidden spot. I don't know if we'll be able to see them. Well, I'm gonna stick here. Hopefully they will come out and we can get to share them with you. There are 4 of them. So I'm staying here for a little bit longer.
The jackal pups are just very special, and I remember when we were in the Mara, Steve found a bat-eared fox den, which was just magical, because young puppies of any canid description are hugely entertaining. Tswalu has moved, come up to a spot just above our heads, and gone to sleep. I don't think it's comfortable. I don't think she'll be there for too long. So she'll just shifty about a bit. And I used the description with Thandi the other day likened her experience to that of a human being travelling a long-haul flight in economy class, such as the Johannesburg to Atlanta flight, where you just cannot get comfortable after a certain amount of time. And I think that Tswalu is having exactly that experience now. No, I haven't, Giraffe. It's an interesting question. I've never seen a branch break while a leopard is sitting on it. I don't suppose it's impossible, but I've never seen it. Oh, she's so tired. It's just like being on an aeroplane seat. Look at her. She's going to drop off, and then suddenly she's going to wake up. I suppose the difference between this and an aeroplane seat is that she doesn't have a fellow passenger dribbling on her shoulder or coughing some unfathomably disgusting disease onto her face. I recall once waking up on a flight between here and Qatar. I was linking across to somewhere in Europe. And I was on I think it was Qatar Airways. It was Qatar or Emirates. And the human being next to me had a case of tooth rot, the likes of which you've not seen before. Clearly a 40-a-day man without a toothbrush. And the sight and smell of this man's mouth was really quite stunning in the worst possible way. It was literally stunning. I was stunned on a number of occasions. And I woke up halfway through the night with my eyebrows being singed off the front of my face and my nostrils filled with a stink the likes of which a buffalo carcass surrounded by lions who'd been there for 4 days in the hot sun would have not managed to rival. And I opened my eyes, and there was this man, his face no more than 3 inches from mine, mouth agog and open, breathing his foul humours onto me. I felt very dirty until I finally managed to have a shower. Thankfully, Shadulu does not have to experience that. She may experience the same discomfort, but the foulness of her conspecifics, she knows she does not have to experience. I'll try now to forget that experience as I sit and watch this leopard.
Craig and I are still with these 2 elephant bulls, and have a look now at how their pace has quickened a little bit. They're not walking as slowly as they were earlier. Seems like they've stopped feeding too. Also look at how the bush around them is a little bit more sparse. There's not quite as much greenery as there was where they were first. It's obviously just crossing this patch of, I won't say barren, but excuse me, this patch of land that has got less food. There's also a water hole not too far from here, and pretty much in the direction that they're heading. I think it's still pretty cool. And the direction they've come from is in the direction of one of the only other water points in this part of the reserve. So I don't think they're going to go and drink right now. Probably just looking for the next best patch of grazing to go to. But definitely walking much faster than earlier. Have a look at that bull there. That's the younger bull that I was talking about. See those thin tusks and those legs that look almost a bit too long for his body. Also look at his forehead. He's got not quite a point to his forehead, but from here his head almost looks like it belongs to a female elephant. I'm sure many of you will have seen the difference between male and female elephants. The bulls having a much more rounded forehead, and the females having that pointed forehead. And they look like they're going to go behind the vehicle. Still walking quite steadily. On a mission, no doubt, off in search of some better food. Quite mesmerizing to watch them. Aunt Christine, you're asking if elephants ever get constipated. And Aunt Christine, it's funny you asked that because I actually saw the other day a video on the internet. It wasn't a wild elephant, it was an elephant in a zoo somewhere. And yes, that elephant did appear to be constipated. It had to be, sorry for the graphic image, but it had to be given an enema to get the blockage out. And so I'm sure it must happen out here in the bush. But then elephants with their knowledge and their ability to feed on so many different kinds of plants, I'm sure that they'll be able to go and feed on certain kinds of things to help them out there. But yeah, if Aunt Christine, if you've got a strong stomach, do go and type that into YouTube or go and have a look. It was quite something. Those elephants are moving pretty quickly, everybody, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get another view of them from the area where they're going into, but lovely to get to spend a bit of time with them this morning. We'll try for another view of them, but if we don't, we're going to carry on in search of some lions for you this morning. Okay, well, you're back with us. Sorry about that, everybody. Of course, being out here in the bush, you never know when signal might cut, or there's all kinds of technical things that could go on. And I suppose that's part of the challenge of broadcasting to you live from the African bush. Like I said, Craig and I are going to carry on heading towards the west. We've been hearing reports from other vehicles of a single lioness. Just based on the area that the report is coming from, it's more than likely a lioness that belongs to the pride of lions that lives out here in the southern plains, that we often refer to as the Bayala pride. And they're lions that I haven't seen in quite some time, so I'd be very keen to go and venture into that area to see if we can find any sign of her. So I think, let's quickly show you in the map where we are and where we're going to be going. So here's our map of andBeyond Phinda. It's a map that we would have shown you before. And we're currently down here in these open plains, this grey area, that's representative of open grassland. And we've just seen those elephants kind of around here. This river course is just to our south, so we're currently around there. And then this particular pride of lions has their territory all across this grey area, all the way into this little part of the reserve here. And so that lioness was somewhere around there. So we might venture in that direction. If we don't come right there, though, we're going to head back over the Ubombo Mountains into this area here. It's a lot more green, and that's all what we call Lebombo woodland. And there's a different pride of lions that lives there. And we've also heard that they have been found as well. So if we don't come right looking for this pride of lions, we're going to head up there a little bit later. Right, off we go. Hopefully we can find some kind of lion for you this morning.
All right, burrow maintenance is the main aim of the game right now. To remove any fecal matter. Well, obviously these little guys go to the toilet inside these burrow systems at night time. It's way too risky to try and come out here and use the toilet outside of the burrow system. Going inside is a very safe manner and means by which one can go to the toilet, and then early morning just removing it, just like you were seeing a couple of seconds ago. So obviously using the front paws and then just removing fecal matter plus soil that would have been pushed down from the winds during the night. Ensuring that those burrow systems are open and clean is very important for them from a safety aspect. Very important if they're being chased by a predator, that burrow system is open, that there's no obstructions. And then also by removing the fecal matter, you don't have a build-up of parasites. Especially if she's looking in the next couple of weeks to use this burrow system as a denning site, this burrow system needs to be clean, because having pups and parasites together is not what is wanted from an alpha female. And we've only had visual on 3 individuals. So we are waiting to see if other individuals are on the emerge. Do they ever fight each other? Dave, so there's a lot of play fighting within colonies, within a group, especially with young ones. A lot of play fighting. It's very important that they build up the necessary skills. But yes, there are vicious, sometimes very vicious fights within colonies and then against different colonies. So against another group or another colony of meerkats on a boundary, fights can be intense. Sometimes meerkats can be mauled by a group to such a detrimental effect that it can actually kill them. When it comes to territorial disputes, obviously, you want to avoid conflict. No animal wants to engage into conflict, unlike humans. You want to basically show all of your superiority before you have to engage into conflict. So they'll do vocalizations to try and show another group that they're stronger, bigger, more dominant. They'll do visual rock, like almost rocking back and motion. But then if colonies are in close conflict, they fight. And it can be quite vicious. Those little teeth are efficient tools. I've seen them kill African wildcats, not an adult, but babies. And a colony of 10, 15 is quite a dominating force. We're going to send you off to another location for now.
Always nice watching meerkats. I like also the interaction when the drongo comes in and folds them. But let's come back to our elephants, who seem like they're enjoying the grass here, which is much softer. They're enjoying the water. Now, elephants require fresh water daily, and that's why you can see them coming here to drink. And it keeps on changing of weather. We see elephants coming to these swamps early. So this is actually about two herds where we've seen them coming here. You can see some of them being led by the matriarch, and the young calves are actually super playful. So thanks to the swamps and the marshes here, so elephants don't need to travel as much. But in other places during the dry condition, elephants will, with the extraordinary ability, they can smell underground water, and with the help of their tusks, they go and dig in dry riverbeds and then get some pools where they drink water. But here they come to this marsh where the grass is soft, and of course that message will be passed to these calves, especially the females, who will always be accompanying the rest of the herd for the entire lifetime when they come to these grazing areas. Harley, thank you so much for your question. Not really, or not necessarily, that elephant will only mate when they're in mask. So we've seen elephants younger than about 20 to 22 sometimes mating. So not only that elephants will mate when they're in mask, but the role of the big bulls within the bachelor herds is very important, because these younger elephant bulls, they get to learn from the big bulls the mating etiquette. So not necessarily that they have to be in mask so that they can mate, but it's a given advantage when elephant bulls are in mask to mate. So the bigger matriarch, or the matriarchs in these families, they're the ones who choose who to mate with. So they don't necessarily go for the younger bulls, they go for the bigger, mature and old bulls. So not only that they can mate when they're in mask. So I'm still going to hang around here because this is a very beautiful scenery here. Watching these elephants as they enjoy the grass. Let me take you over to another live location.
talking about a beautiful scene, we've just come across a male group of zebra. So this is a bachelor herd, and yes, believe me when I tell you all of them are males. And just have a look. You squint your eyes and you look at this group. You'll realize what dazzling effect it's got on the eyes. And have a look at what they're doing. You'll see some of them placing their heads on the rumps of the others, and then they're trying to bite each other, tails are going. They're quite excited. I'm going to move it slightly forward. Oh no. Now these are all young males, and they probably just started forming this little group of bachelors. And I think at this point they probably trying to figure out who is the more dominant male. Now, a young group of zebra like these can be quite interesting to watch, because there's a constant battle going on. I'm going to move a little bit back. There's also quite a lot of impalas in the area, and the interesting thing is that these guys have actually been chasing the impalas. So let's have a look. Yo, there's a lot of impala around this area. Okay, Times, if I'm hearing the name correctly, yes, they are aware of our presence. I'm sure they are. They're quite alert. Have a look at that zebra on the right. You can see he's staring straight at us at this point. But we are far enough away, as you can see, to not affect their behavior. Some of the impalas was actually laying down. They just got up because the zebra moved closer. And these male zebra are literally causing a little bit of chaos around here. Ooh, and then if you have a look off to the right, you can see there's a big male impala walking in on a group of younger ones. And he's probably going to try and assert his dominance. But what an incredible scene. That's amazing. All of them, their heads down. Have a look at the zebra. All of them heads down feeding. I think they've given up on playing around and fooling around. Mason, male zebras definitely fight over females. In fact, young male zebras, when they leave their natal herd, they form little groups like this one. And have a look at that. You can see there's actually some of them, they're going at each other, they're biting each other. Every now and again, when they get too close to the hindquarters, one might kick up, like that one. And that's because they're trying to establish some sort of a hierarchy. But a group like this have quite interesting prospects lined up for them. Now, once they feel like they are ready, they might move towards a group with a male and his harem, and they might actually try and abduct, as they call it, some of the young females. And when that happens, the young one comes in, he becomes a challenger, and he actually challenges the father of those females, which will mean that he'll fight him, which is usually bites and kicks. But it's more a competition of endurance than actual fighting to see who wins. You can see, just look at that. That is incredible. I'm going to move a little bit, just reposition. You can see there's quite a lot of excitement this morning in the air, and that's mainly because of the weather. On overcast days like these, we find that the zebra and impala are especially active. Now what's interesting here is that these males might have come from different herds. So they're more or less the same age, but some of them might be maybe a year or two older than the others and have a little bit more experience. I think I'm gonna sit right here and have a look and see what these zebra get up to.
Well, here we have the zebras on the move and a secretary bird preening itself. Such a beautiful setting. It looks like the zebras have decided today they don't want to be in this area. They are moving on. I don't blame them. Maybe they have been here for quite a few days and they have exhausted all the grass, so it's about time to move on. The secretary bird has also decided to do that. Remember, the secretary bird is a bird of prey, spends most of its time, in fact, about 90% of its time on the ground. Only when they have chicks, because they nest on high trees with a big nest, they will fly back with some little food to get back to the nest. But if they're not breeding, they don't have chicks, they will spend all the time on the ground, sometimes even lying flat on the ground to rest, only heading back to the tree to roost, in the evening. They pair for life, and they're masters of killing snakes in these plains. Their long, thin legs are adapted to stomping and killing, even some huge snakes like cobras and mambas. Over here, looks like she's hunting for grasshoppers. That is what she's in for here. I have looked in one of Secretary's bird droppings, and 90% of everything that came out was grasshopper legs. Wasn't a very good smell. Sorry to be discussing that right now, but yeah, it's part of the details I have to give you. Yeah, it had lots of grasshopper legs and wings that were undigested, and so yeah, I did find out that it was that it was eating. The other one is not very close. I don't see it, but they have a nest somewhere back there, so I would say maybe it's closer to that nest, but they're usually not very far apart. With the amazing eyesight, they're able, to see each other even from long distances, so they're not worried. It can fly, so in case of any threat, it will, get away quite, quickly. Dizzy, secretary birds, second tallest birds, I would dispute that, because there is a bird called the saddle beanstalk, and it's almost 4.5 feet. It's very tall, so I would say the saddle beanstalk here would be the second tallest, not the heaviest. Yeah, so Dizzy, I think the saddle beanstalk takes second. Secretary will come in somewhere between 4 and 5, because we have the marabou stock and we do have the secretary bird. So it will come in somewhere there of the tallest birds. Okay, it looks like we have to head slightly down this way. in front of me there is a lot of wildebeest and zebra, and that's where I'm heading to. So if you allow me, I'll go there as we take you to another live location.
Welcome back. We've had our plan to go and look for those lions thwarted a bit by the fact that these two elephant bulls came out into a bit of an open area where we could see them quite nicely, and we've been watching them as they've started to feed again, just like we surmised earlier that they were looking for some better quality food. That's exactly what they've done. They've slowed down quite a bit, and they've now done just that. They've slowed down in this patch of bushes here, and they're starting to feed. Look at how that bull is using his trunk in conjunction with his feet to rip up young thorn trees out of the ground. It'll be soft, and the leaves will be soft and tasty. The tree still is also pretty soft and still growing, so still very nutritious, and he's basically popped the whole thing in his mouth. Chew on the roots, chew on the bark, and the leaves as well, of course. And he's feeding quite busily now. He's not... Remember earlier how they would go and stand around one bush for quite a bit of time? Look at how this bull kind of shuffles here and there every now and then, moving around a lot. So obviously lots of food there, but it's scattered around. So probably just plucking up, like we said, low-growing young thorn bushes. There's a black-bellied bustard that's flying in, everybody. Let's see if Craig can get on camera. Oh, well done, Craig. Look at that black-bellied bustard. Sinking out of the sky in slow motion. Isn't that incredible? Look at the white and black on the wings and into the grass. Well done, Craig. Some very handy camera work there. And there's the older bull. See just his one tusk there. Again, with his ears flared out to the side, and the wind blowing directly over his back and onto those ears, keeping him cool. When he stands like that, it almost looks like he's irritated. I'm sure many of you will have seen before an elephant, when it is agitated, how it holds its head up, puts its ears out to make itself look big, and holds its head high. Of course, that's not what's going on now. He's just holding his ears out to cool himself down. He's busy feeding, so very relaxed. Very slowly just reaching his trunk out here and there, plucking up grass and bushes. So Rita, you're asking how far elephant bulls can run for. Well, I don't know about how far they can run. Obviously, with them being very big animals and very heavy, running a long distance is not something that they are used to, or that they'll do very much of. So Rita, most of the time when they run, it'll be either to chase another elephant bull away, or if they're chasing after a female during courtship. And that might be a couple hundred meters to maybe... Yeah, I think the furthest I've seen an elephant bull chase another elephant bull was maybe over about 400, 500 meters, where the two of them ran, like sprinting for about that distance. And then both of them got too tired and they couldn't continue. But in terms of walking, they can walk very, very, very far and very fast. I remember reading in a book about 10 kilometers an hour is how fast they can walk. Not run, walk. They can walk at about 10 kilometers an hour. And they can keep that up for a good amount of time. We've watched old bulls here in the southern parts of andBeyond Phinda when they've come into must and they're heading up into the northern parts of the reserve to go in search of females during winter time. They'll cover a distance of 30 kilometers, maybe even a bit more, easily or overnight. And we've seen how their tracks have led us from the far south of the reserve, like I said, overnight. The next morning they've been on the tail of a herd, so to speak. but not really an animal that's built for running very fast, for very far. Not having to run away from anything other than other elephants, and not having to chase after anything other than the aforementioned scenarios where they have to chase other bulls or chase after elephant cows when they're trying to breed with them. And quite a comical thing to see is an elephant bull running at full speed. Oh, look at that bull throwing dust in himself. That's just incredible. Look at that red dust. It's like a sandstorm. Magnificent. You'll see another bull's about to walk in front of him. What a picturesque scene as well. Look at that mountain in the background. We're just going to see what this elephant bull does. He looks like he's feeding. Look at how he's using his trunk. Again, in conjunction with his foot. Look at that. That's exactly what we just saw earlier. Using his foot and his trunk together to rip that little bush out of the ground. Let me see if I can see what exactly it is that he's busy eating there. Tough to see now because it's concealed behind the grass. Look at how he puts his foot on it and then uses the strength of his trunk to rip it out the ground and pop it in his mouth. Unfortunately, I just can't see clearly enough to see exactly what kind of plant it is that he's eating there. But obviously very tasty, very nutritious, because he's putting in a little bit of work to have to get to it. We're just going to give him a bit of space, everybody. There we go. That should be sufficient. Just wanting to move a little bit back to make sure that elephant's got enough space where he doesn't feel that we are imposing on him, and if he does want to walk in our direction, that we're not blocking him off. Ooh, and there's a bit of haze in the distance. Everyone, it looks like there's a bit of a squall of rain that's on its way. Jake, you're asking how often elephants lose their tusks in confrontations. Jake, it's not very common. It does happen from time to time, especially with bulls when they're fighting. For example, maybe if two bulls are in must and they both come upon the same herd and there's a female and estrus and they're both evenly sized, evenly matched, and then they've got no choice but to fight to decide who's going to get a chance to mate with her. And those fights can get quite violent and quite vicious. And that is when a tusk might get broken off, but it's not a very common thing. I suppose also digging for roots. Typically those tusks are very strong and sturdy, and elephants will use them for what they're designed for. And I mean, part of that is digging, and part of that is breaking bark or branches off of trees. But maybe if an elephant is nutritionally stressed and those tusks are a little bit brittle, then they might break off a bit easier. We're going to have to put our rain covers on, everybody, so we're going to send you away for now, just because there's, like I said, quite a bit of a mist of rain that's approaching us quite rapidly. So we'll see where these elephants go.
Our leopard is very content and sleeping here in her tree. Her duiker is also sleeping, somewhat more permanently in the same tree. And I think what we're going to try and do after we've spent a bit of time here is head up towards Biffle's Hook, which is the reserve north of Djuma. And there are some cheetah. If we can get a space, we'll go on there. Because I don't think our leopard is going to do much. It's very special having her here. And spending such sort of, I suppose, I almost said lonely time with her, but I meant exclusive time with her. There's no one else here. We're all on our own, which is just great. Right, well, I guess we'll leave here and go up to the cheetah.
So you come in, but you'll just come along more west, that's where you're coming from, and then you'll head north.
So welcome back to the Mara, where our elephants have shown interest and they're actually walking towards the river. See that young male is actually cooling himself. Look at how he's scratching off for soil there and dust. Little belly scratch. How interesting is this? So sometimes, elephants cannot reach their bellies to scratch off, so they come to a point like this where they'll scratch their bellies. And I think it's showing some interest maybe to go to the river or maybe cross across. So let's see if the rest of the family will join. Despite them having enough water at the marsh, so they always prefer coming to drink at the river. I've seen elephants cross at this point quite often, but in the last about a month and a half, I haven't seen them. So it will be quite nice to see if they'll do it right here. So they'll require fresh water daily. And that's very important for them, especially because they have the young ones. So they can't go without water for a long time. So they have to assess for crocs, because they have the calves, so it's very dangerous for them to cross when they have crocodile. But since they have pig matriarch, older females, and the rest of the family actually guards for such predators like crocodile, especially when they're crossing the river. So it'll be very nice to see them. I hope they cross soon. I can see the rest of the family is joining in. Seems like it's going to be a elephant crossing. You can see on the bank where they've excavated actually for minerals. You can see some small burrows there. So this tells you that these elephants have always frequented here. It's only that because it's drying up, that's why we've seen them coming this morning. But normally they will cross here at around noon, and sometime by noon we've always closed the show. That is why we don't always get to see this. You can see them dusting off. like a little bit steep. Not sure if they'll do it from that point or not. You can see the older female choosing a different path. So I think they might join her. Because from where they were going to cross looks like a little bit steep. So I'm going to stay here with these elephants. I would really love to see them crossing the river. So let me take you over to another live location.
So we've been sitting around here having a look at these impala and zebras. Zebras seem to have quieted down, but we've noticed that, have a look at that. So you can see the impala at the back, or the one on the right hand side. His horns are slightly larger than the one on the left. And we've been noticing that there's quite a few impalas playing around like these two are at the moment. And if you look at the size of the horns, you can see that these aren't completely matured. So they must be the new males that... Ooh, that's quite a bit of excitement. But so, where we are, this is a large clearing with very good resources. Food, there's water not too far from here. You can see that one's chewing the cud at the moment. But this is basically a testing ground. A lot of young male impalas right on the verge of seriously competing for territory. And then also those young male zebra. You can see that one is relieving itself, but they are a lot more relaxed than they were earlier. And off to the left, we have a close look there. That is exactly why these animals are competing, especially impala. A large herd of females, a few young males, but mainly females. You can see they're completely relaxed. They're laying down. So those are the yearlings. That young male there right in the middle, you can see small horns. And like most ruminants during the middle of the day, he's laying up and busy digesting and chewing the cud. But the rest of them are laying right on the edge of the tree line, so outside of the clearing, and that's because of the wind. The wind's quite strong, and they've probably had quite a busy night due to the full moon last night. With the wind blowing, you often find that during the day the impalas lay down and rest. But talking about the young male. So the young male, the zebra group, the bachelor herd, as well as the young males off to our right, they know that this is one of the best spots to keep a territory. And as we can see with the females, that's exactly what they're competing for. So all of the males, they're trying to test each other, they're trying to establish some sort of a hierarchy in this case. PPP, zebras actually do have that stripes on their skin, but visually, if you had to shave a zebra, it would be black all over. However, there is a difference in the skin cells that you find under the black stripes versus the white stripes, and at the moment the most prominent theory on that is that it might aid them in thermoregulation or controlling their body temperature, especially in the heat. Like most mammals, underneath the fur they're black. But at this stage, this is a very, very interesting area. On a day like today, where it's overcast, there's a strong breeze blowing, these animals compete with each other to earn a spot, so to say, in the rankings. So, Lisa, to answer your questions, when do the Impala start to give birth? In this particular area, we're expecting them to start giving birth around about the end of November. And hopefully by then we'll start to see the first lambs. And what's very interesting at this stage is that the females in this area, they know this is a good area, good food. The males, they know as well, and that's why we see so many bachelors. They start to compete already amongst themselves. They sort out the hierarchy, which ones are the stronger ones, and eventually, when the time comes, usually around April, and then the days start shortening, we start seeing them competing seriously for certain spots. And that's when the rut starts. Eventually, when the time comes.
Well done, Yappy, with your impalas, and here I am with my giraffes, and looks like we have a very good number of young ones. You will notice them when they pop their heads up there, and it is such a beautiful sight. Look at that. That is only maybe a month old or so. The farthest one behind could be the mum. These calves, can stand up to around 6 feet tall or 7 feet tall. So you're already taller than most of us, even at a very early stage. And it is important because they can spot predators also. This is the Maasai giraffe, and they are doing very, very well. Although listed as endangered and the numbers are declining, we stand at around 100,000 this time and date, and they could be dropping due to habitat loss, poaching. Those are the two main effects, apart from them being hunted by hyenas or lions, hyenas will take full advantage of these young ones like this. When they come here, a clan of about 50 or 40 could easily outmaneuver the mothers and feed on them. There's some zebras who come to join them. They feel very safe when they're in amongst the giraffe. Of course, the giraffes can see quite far, and they can also, tell, but their body language can tell everybody around that there is a danger. These are the bachelors or the common zebra, but the giraffes here are Maasai, and there's quite a good number of them. Looks like majority of them are females. So this is what we call a crèche. It's a babysitting club created by females when they're just about to give birth or after they give birth. Each female usually gives birth all by herself in a secluded spot out in the plains where she can see quite far and wide, and she will hide her young one for a couple of days while she browses not very far from it, going back every half an hour to 1 hour to give it some milk, and then eventually they will join up all the calves, making what we call a crèche. It's a babysitting school where they will browse at a distance while watching for these young ones. Every now and then one will go back and nurse its own young, and they will stay at a distance watching for any predators. Over here, definitely this is a crèche, but the youngsters are allowed to follow because they are here. You can only see one, but I tell you there's a few of them. They're feeding. Yeah, there's two there. There is one, yeah, there to the right. There is one, yeah, and then to the left. Those are two, but there is quite a good number of them here. Yeah, the giraffe neck of a fully grown giraffe has got about 7 vertebrae. Liz, do young zebras have brown stripes? Yes, they do. They are not as dark and pronounced in color like, the older ones, and especially the adults. So they are slightly, like fainter. They are almost brown, black. They're not really black or brown. Yeah, that was called sunbathing. Unlike other animals that do wallowing or mud bathing, the zebras, the wildebeest love, sunbathing, and they usually find a dark spot that is bare, and they will roll there. That is to smother ticks, mites, and other biting creepy crawlies in their bodies, adding a layer of dirt onto their skin that will act as like sunblock. They do that. Of course, it is a very beautiful sight, but I'll have to move on, find something else. So let's see what's happening somewhere else.
What a stroke of luck we've had today. Here are 3 cheetah, the same ones that Tristan had yesterday. A mother and her 2 cubs. I have not seen these 2, or these 3, as far as I'm aware. I'm assuming it's not the same mother. It's definitely not the same 2 cubs that I saw a little while back hunting a kudu. That was about 2 years ago now. Oh, just too wonderful, isn't it? So sweet. Now, I don't know if you can see the 3rd one, but it's just behind there in the long grass. And you can hear the call, not alarmed, of the magpie shrike. And you know, if this was a leopard, I suspect that magpie shrike would be making its sort of strident, squawking alarm. That's just a very special sighting. We seldom see cheetah here, as you know, and especially on Djuma, because their habitat just doesn't really suit them, whereas up here on Buffelshoek, where we are now, there are a few more clearings and things where the cheetah tend to hang out more frequently. What a privilege. We won't be able to stay here for too long, unfortunately, because there are other people who want to come, but we'll probably get 2 segments or so out of it. Bit of light coming now too. A bit of cloud above us is thinning slightly. Yes, Nathan, indeed. Each cheetah definitely has different spots. And it's, you know, people used to say to us when we were kids, isn't it amazing that every zebra has totally different stripes? And the same thing applied to cheetah and leopards, of course. But it would be much more amazing if they all had exactly the same spots. So, you know, they say things like, it's like a unique fingerprint, and each human has their own fingerprint. But it would be much more amazing if each human had exactly the same fingerprint. And if you want to identify cheetah, I mean, you could just take a picture of their spots and have a look, but often what they do is they look at the tear marks and the spots around the tear marks. It's a full frontal face shot, and there are often distinguishing kind of tear mark spots around the face there that help cheetah researchers identify one from the other. Three cheetahs, eh? And these little ones, I don't know how old they are. I'm sure Tristan had a guess last night, but I'm gonna say they're about 5 or 6 months old. No, Chidulu won't pose a threat to these cheetahs. Chidulu is nowhere near here. She would if Chidulu came across one of these cubs on its own without the mother, and if they weren't paying attention, yes, for sure. A leopard will kill a cheetah, but I've watched leopards chasing cheetah, and cheetah are disdainful in the way that they run away. They do run away, but, you know, they're so much faster that it looks like they're taking a sort of Sunday jog. But Chidulu's about how far away? Say 5 kilometers as the crow flies, so quite a long way. Oh, hey, look at that. Just glorious, eh? It makes me want to go up there and join them. And wonder if they probably wouldn't be quite as affectionate to me as they're being with each other. Now one is trying to practice the choke hold on her mother, or his mother, while the other one uses her as a pillow. Very different approaches to the motherly relationship. I think practicing the killing bite on your mother could be considered rude. Here a red-crested korhaan in the background. Always amazes me, or never ceases to amaze me when I see cheetah, is how they are permanently alert. They just never look quite as relaxed as leopards, and definitely not lions. Lions, of course, look more relaxed than corpses quite a lot of the time. The cheetahs, not so much. Ears and eyes always moving, and I don't know if anyone's pointed this out to you before. They may well have, but one of their unique adaptations is the ability to lie on their sides and then have the head tilted up at a sort of 90-degree angle. And I would encourage you, if you're limber enough to try it, go and lie down on your back or on your side and try and lift your head so that your eyes are perpendicular with the horizon. It's almost impossible. And you can see how she's lying now, how the mum's lying. Oh dear, practicing our chokehold on mum again.
Back to andBeyond Phinda. Managed to stay relatively dry, and we've also found 5 adorable lion cubs. It looks like they also got a little bit wet. See how they're licking each other's fur, licking the water droplets out of each other's hair? And if Craig zooms out a little bit, have a look at the spot that they've got for themselves. They've perched up on the most magnificent rocky hillside, overlooking the Lubombo woodland below. They haven't exactly chosen the best cover either to escape from the rain. There's quite a few thickets around here, but yet they're lying relatively exposed there. I suppose for them, it's not really very heavy rain, it's more of just a heavy mist that's blowing through. So nothing too bad for them, nothing that they can't handle. Their mothers are not too far from here. They've left them up here to go and hunt. And these cubs will be waiting for, and hopefully having caught something, at least one of the two lionesses will come back and fetch the cubs, lead them down this rocky hill, the valley below. There's a lot of grooming going on, a lot of licking, but then there's the odd little bite as well. Of course, for young lions, I suppose the temptation to bite your sibling or your cousin can only hold it off for so long before an ear or looks too tempting and you have to bite it. That one's shaking itself, trying to get the water droplets out of its hair. See how they're all bunched up tightly, huddled up, trying to keep warm. This is just too precious a scene, everybody. So Craig and I are definitely going to spend a bit more time here and watch what these cubs get up to.
Our cheetah, and so we will follow them for as long as we can to where they're going to go. You do see another vehicle there. It's just another game drive vehicle. Don't worry about it. The hood is doing some remarkable contortionism to get this shot as they go behind us. Okay, let's turn around. There we go. There's a hyena just in front of them, in front of Mum there. Niels, you might be able to just pick him up. You can just see him through the bush there. The hyena seems to have backed off, but it's still lurking there waiting and maybe hoping that she'll do a little bit of hunting. Now remember, at this stage the youngsters will be more of a hindrance. There she's now looking at the hyena moving in the bushes, the fringes of the clearing. You can hear the hornbill in the background almost making a sort of ominous soundtrack, building the tension. The hyena's backing off now. And you find that these cats treat hyenas with much the same disdain that antelope do. So, they know they can get away from them. If they can see them, they're not going to be too panicked by them. So they don't look alarmed, they're just kind of watching. Oh, this is just wonderful. What a morning, hey? Tristan said to me the animals have been amazing. And I said to him, don't worry, they'll all have left as I arrived. But thankfully they're at least a day late for their departure. Now, I don't know how many of you were watching when we had the tremendous privilege of following those 5 cheetah brothers of the Masai Mara, who are now very famous. And they were relatively famous when we saw them, but I think we certainly increased their fame. And what was so amazing there was that hyenas were never far from them. Hyenas would find those cats and then just track them. Wait patiently on the fringes, they'd kill something, and then the hyenas would go in and they'd either feed with the cheetah, or more often than not, steal from the cheetah. And often it was one hyena that would steal from all 5. Just great. Right, we'll wait and see what happens.
Talking about scavenging, just have a look at that. Very diligently. Oh, you can actually see the fruit there. That is a very large jackalberry, and this troop of baboons have just climbed up. And I've seen about 3 very large males, like that one. And they are literally stuffing their face at this point. So have a look. Oh, quite a jump there. This is quite interesting. It looks like they are trying to gather the fruit as quick as possible. It's almost as if they're afraid that it might disappear soon. There's a younger one. I just find it amazing at how they climb on these very, very thin branches. You can see that one balancing itself. It's literally sitting on a small branch and grabbing whatever fruit is available nearby within its grasps. It's amazing how these animals are just moving on the smallest branches between them as quickly as they are. And whatever clump of fruit they can see, they grab and they stuff themselves. And they'll even stuff their cheeks before actually chewing and swallowing. Just look at that. You can see everywhere you see branches moving at the moment, that's where there is a baboon. The whole troop up the tree. That's a big, big male, that one. You can see the fruit just in front of his face. So let's have a look. He's probably going to grab whatever he can see from where he is. They're almost completely disappearing in and amongst the leaves at the moment.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. These little lion cubs are starting to wake up a little bit, and they're looking very inquisitively at the other vehicles that are joining us here. Look at that one in the middle there, how it's watching, lifting its head. Actually, both of the two on the right, look at how alert they are. Their ears are pricked. You might be able to hear the sound of the other vehicle that's approaching, also wanting to come and get a look at these adorable lions. Still meticulously grooming themselves. Cleaning the water off of each other's backs. Still no sign of their mothers though, like we said. I think they're still down in the bottom of the valley there. There's another vehicle that's managed to find them. I wonder if they're not maybe using the cool of this rainy day to try and hunt something. And incredible to think that these little lions, even though I suppose they're not that little anymore, having been born kind of in late March or so they would be about 7 months old now, really getting quite big. But I think that the spot that the mothers have chosen to leave them is not only picturesque but also very safe up here on this rocky outcrop. There's lots of caves for them to go and hide in. Can't see any from here because we're up on the very top of it. But if we go just over the lip, there's a lot of big boulders that they could go and hide underneath or hide in between if something were to threaten them. Also lots of thickets for them to go into. And look at how they're getting a bit restless now. They've obviously been sitting still for a long time, just like little children that have been too long. Practicing its killing bite that it will one day use on prey like Inyalas and Warthogs. And its sibling giving as good as it gets, now biting back. And I think with them getting a bit more active, I'm sure that we're going to start to see a bit of play from these little lions. So Craig and I are going to sit here for a bit longer.
It's always nice watching cheetahs. What a nice interaction between that family. Now back to our elephants, and it seems like our elephant family, the family number one, did not manage to cross, and I think they've gone further upstream for a suitable place where they can at least cross to the other side, because it looked a little bit steep on where they were previously. The reason why I said family number one is because it looked like these two families know each other. And generally because I saw some interaction, I saw some greetings there. So when family groups increase in number, sometimes beyond the capacity of the environment, you find that they'll always split and form two groups. So the population sometimes gets too big and maybe it's too dry, and maybe family number one has lots of calf, so they end up staying behind, and the rest of the family will end up going together. So when they move together, they have what we call bond groups. So we have family bond who generally sometimes will meet and engage in greeting ceremonies, just like what I just saw, intertwining the trunks, rumbling, trumpeting. Sometimes they bellow while they're walking around. So when bond group meet, so it becomes very evident I didn't get that clearly. Did you mean rogue female elephants? Maybe I might get to hear that again. You know, sometimes elephants have personalities like us humans. So we have humans that might be not friendly. We have just the same as elephants. So once in a while you can find rogue elephants. So these two groups have met, and you find that over time and time, the two family groups will meet and they have to greet each other. So we call this the bond groups. So it's important also to note that when these two groups split, the most closely related individuals stay together within those herds. So you find that the bigger sister to the matriarch split up and form her own group. So it is nice watching these elephants. It's a very, very lovely morning. So I'm just going to go somewhere else to find what's going to be there as I take you over to another live location.
Well, look at what we have here. Some piggies, some hoglets. I thought they were lost earlier. And look at the wildebeest, how they look at them. It's like, what are these? These are little warthogs. I call them sometimes hoglets. Ooh, somebody say they've been spooked by something really fast for how small they are. I thought they were orphaned, but the mother is out there where they're headed. I don't know how they got separated, but the mother, yeah, there we see the mother's come to sight. Yeah, those are warthogs. I would say they're about 2 months old, really quite young. Yeah. Remember, you know, they can give birth up to 6 after a gestation period of about 5.5 months. And that is the mother. They have been reunited. Very busy using their snout. It's a flat pad on the front of the nose or the muzzle. They use it to pull out tubers and also some grass, straighten it and then chew on it. Really, really cute. I don't know how many were born, but we've just seen 4. Looks quite busy. They look very tiny, but I tell you, these guys can get away from most things. They're very, very fast and also can dodge and turn. Yeah, the eyesight is really, really good. Problem is they're very low on the ground and they don't have frontal vision. Yeah, apart from them, we do have, let's not ignore this animal. It is the white bearded gnu. They're still with us here. And majority of these guys I can see are bulls It is very late because it's the first day of November, and I wonder if they're ever gonna leave. They normally do stay here until end of September, but they prolonged it to October, and now it's November. And actually, there's quite a good number of them. So looks like they might stay with us. And if it does so, then it means, we will be having a resident wildebeest around us.
There's a steenbok right in front of this cheetah now, and she gave it a little bit of a chase, and it seems to be oblivious of them. It's just moving behind the bushes there, and the babies are coming up next to her. I don't know why she's not giving it more of an effort. So what she's done is she's come quite a long way south from where we first saw her, and the steenbok's going back towards the clearings where we saw her first. There. It's just popped out. It hasn't seen them. And she's now not looking at it. Wake up. Look left. It's still a good 50 meters in front of her, so she'd have to get a bit closer before she gave chase. Looking in that direction now. Now she's watching it. And you can see the ears are not forward, but the cub behind is. The cub on the left is very interested. I think that we flushed the steenbok, and that's why it moved out from where it was, and that's why it hasn't taken off and gone further, because I don't think it knows these cheetah are here. I don't think it's seen them. See, now the little one is thinking about a little hunt. All righty. That's very brave of you. Come on then. Try out your running spikes. Let's see how good they are. While we wait and see what happens here, there was the inevitable discussion, I'm sure, around Shedulu's cub's demise and whether or not you as an individual would choose to intervene if something like that happened. And certainly the old school of thought used to be, I think she's quite keen. The old school of thought was that you never intervene because, you're just there as an observer. And my argument to that is that it's absolute garbage. Ooh. If this little cub succeeds, I will be astounded. And how that relates to this sighting is that we flushed that steenbok. They wouldn't even be looking at it if we hadn't flushed it. And so we're inevitably intervening all the time. Unintentionally. Now, I've identified one of these cubs, I think, as a male. I think the other's also a male, but I could be wrong. I'd be interested if anybody else had an opinion, having seen them last night. I got a brief glimpse behind the tail of one. Okay, now I can see the steenbok. Niels, do you see the termite mound there? Behind all those bushes, it's like a sort of low termite mound. The steenbok is just on the left-hand side of it. Yeah, you got it, exactly. Now, the precocious cub, for want of a better term, is now not much more than 30 meters behind where that steenbok is. And I think we should wait here and see how this plays out. Steenbok is looking at Niels, or at me, but I like to think it's looking at Niels's rain hood. And And it is not, as far as I don't think it has any idea that there are 3 voracious predators here. Although 2 of them don't look very voracious at all. I would say that the chances of the little one catching that steenbok are nigh on 0. Especially as it now seems to have moved off. Oh, and our hyena is back, now doing its best to pretend it wasn't actually that interested in the first place. The cheetah looked around at the hyena. The hyena looked like a child who'd been caught eyeing out a tray of cupcakes it wasn't supposed to be looking at. I've lost sight of the precocious cub. I think the steenbok is gone. Ah, there's the cub. No, the cub can still see the steenbok. Can you see the cub there, Niels? Yeah, that's it. You got it. It's definitely not giving up yet. Fascinating. Well, I think the hunt is off. Alas. Fascinating stuff. Well, we'll hang around and see if they get lucky.
I'm sure and I hope that those cheetahs will get lucky. So here in the Mara, we've left our elephants, very nice family, and we've come across this lion that is sound asleep. He's hiding in thick croton bushes there. I think because it's warming up, he just came there and decided to take a rest. So this is one of the lions from the 6-pack that are in the marsh on the other side of the river, called the Marsh Coalition. And I understand there's 2 other males around this area. So I've been trying to look for them, and I hope I'll get to see them. What a nice, beautiful spot to rest. Very nice shade. That bush is an insect repellent, so he has an advantage for shade and also no flies on his body. So with this coalition coming in the Mara Triangle, remember when we saw the young male this morning looking very shy? So this is the reason why that young lion is very shy, because when he comes across these lions, he's going to be fought off. And before lions become prime, before they get to that age where they can take over or become a prime male in the prides, they go through a very rough time, and especially when they encounter big territorial males. So this area is for the Mugoro pride. So the Mugoro pride, sometimes we find Olalashe, who overlaps all these 3 territories: the Owino, the Olalashe, the Owino, the Ololo, and the Mugoro. So these 3 coming in, or 4, it's going to be a different thing to see. Because the other lion is not far from here, let me just drive off a little bit to see if I can get a view of that male. And I understand they're also mating, so it would be nice to see. On my mission to find the mating lions, let me take you over to another live location. So welcome back. I've come across another male lion that is sleeping here on the grass. Look at him. He's not actually far from the other one, but I can't actually see the lioness. So probably there's the 3 lions from the coalition of the Marsh Pride. So I think the other one is actually mating somewhere in this long grass. For the last 2 days, it's been very cold, and I'm sure these lions were very cold, so he's enjoying the sun. Being the apex predator, you can tell they're not worried at all. They can go anywhere and sleep anywhere, wherever they want, because they don't have predators. But for the younger ones, like the one we saw this morning, he will be a little bit worried because of the intruders like this one here. So as I wait and watch this lion here, let me take you over to another live location.
The wonderful hustle and bustle of the amazing sociable weaver. They're all coming back with nesting material right now, or a lot of them are. So you can see a lot of birds flying in with strands or blades of grass within the beak. And then a few of them actually in this colony actually have little chicks. So more than likely will be coming back and then feeding the chicks as well. They tend to fall into the summer period for breeding, but any period where we have 20 millimeters of rain and more, these birds can actively breed. They seize the opportunity. And just like vegetation in the Kalahari, you've got to be flexible. So having a quick breeding and dispersal period is a very efficient way in how you can sustain a population and you can increase colony numbers. They're very busy right now. A lot of communication going on. And this nest actually has 3 sections to it, so it's 3 individual nests. It's quite prominent through Tswalu. You don't have one nest being continuous throughout a tree. You can see, if David zooms out a little bit for us, you can see what I'm talking about. So in view now, on the top left-hand corner, that is one nest. And then on the top right-hand corner, that is another nest. And these birds maintain these enormous structures throughout the year. It's a remarkable adaptation. And this is how they survive these harsh areas. There's a lot of activity going on there with those ones. They're actually fighting, David. So I actually pulled you away from there. Oh, you are there. There's a little bit of conflict going on there, it looks like. It you can see from the movements that they are chasing one another, so some internal politics. And it's really remarkable the skill that the bird has. Bernie, it all comes down to sheer dedication. It is remarkable. I tend to think about now how much energy is one bird expending, how much energy is one bird using to fly off, collect one piece of material, and I'm talking about one piece of grass, coming back here and obviously adhering it to this structure and then flying off and doing it all over again. It's just mind-boggling. But there's a very good saying in roots, if you have, in life, if you have strong roots or strong foundation, that means you set up for success. And the foundation is this structure. So the more energy and the more time that they put into it, the better that they're going to be in the long run. And obviously, the safer the chicks are going to be. So this is used for nesting, so overnight resting or nesting, and as well as for breeding. So remarkable structure and something that is very, very important to these birds. But yeah, the dedication, it's just unreal. Sure, they are busy. Oh, word. Beautiful view there. If he turns his head, you're going to see a beautiful, quite large conical shaped beak. There we go. And from here, we're going to send you off to another location. We'll see you later.
And once again, we've come across this pair. And they're pretty much in exactly the same position where we left them last night. They did go on a bit of a walkabout. We found tracks on the other side of the riverbed. But it doesn't seem like much has changed. It's starting to warm up quite a bit now, and you can see, look at that male. He's literally sitting, falling asleep at the moment. And they've just been chased by a herd of elephants, and unfortunately we have missed that. See one fly going in and out of the eye of this lion. I'm sure he's had quite a long night. What an amazing creature. Still very close to the female. You can see the posture. He's got his hind legs up. And even though he's starting to doze off, he's still as latched on to the movements of the female as he was yesterday. There she is. You can see she's also starting to doze off. And I wonder if they are going to be mating today, or if they might just lay down like this for quite a while.
Gone speeding into this, at least this thicket. There they are, right in front of us. And we had a wonderful sighting of a youngster up in a marula tree. It was very special. Looked like a leopard. Lex come in. I'm just trying to help Lex get into the sighting. They are mucking around in there now.
Go ahead.
Lex, they've gone down into these thickets.
Okay, copy. System.
So welcome back to the Mara where our lion is still sleeping. Look at him, he just turned over to warm his belly. Looked like he fed last night. But whatever he got was not enough because I can still see the rib cage there. With these lions coming into the Mara Triangle, I'm sure it's going to be a different kind of thing because lots of lionesses will come into mating because the ones with the cubs, unfortunately, they might lose their cubs. And we saw one of the Riverbed mating with one of the brothers. So it will be interesting to know what will be going on for the next couple of days, or maybe a week and a month. Oh, there's another lioness walking there. I think this is from the Riverbed. Well done, James. Is she out on a hunt? By the look of her, she looks like she's scanning the area. Is possibly going out for a hunt. This is one pride that I always respect. Whenever they eye something and they want to go for it, they never miss. Actually, I've seen a very nice, successful hunt from the Riverbed. And I hope that this mother will be successful this morning. It's very, very interesting when you stop somewhere and watch a species and then something else unfolds. We were just watching this lion sleeping and then suddenly we saw that lioness walking. So it seems like a very interesting morning. You can tell he's sound asleep. He's not even heard that lioness walking. Very, very nice. So lions can spend even about the entire day sleeping. Can spend about 12 hours, sometimes even 16 hours in a day sleeping. But as the temperatures rise right here, he'll have definitely to move because they don't have sweat glands. That's the reason why you always see them in shade during the hot temperatures of the day. So let me sit here and wait to see what that lioness is up to as I take you over to another live location.
Eight to 12 hours a day. These lions barely moved 100 meters in the last 24. They certainly do spend a lot of hours laying around and sleeping. But sleeping, I think, is an interesting concept for cats especially. And you can see that male, look at his eyes, they're closed. But he's sitting with his head up and he's dozing off. And then a slight turn off to the side. And look at the ears. Now both of these are quite hidden amongst the bushes here, and there we go, the female has decided to take a nap. But since they're quite hidden in between the bushes here, it's a dense area. The wind is blowing, so there's a lot of stuff moving around the branches, trees cracking in the wind. But there might also be other animals in the nearby area. There's a lot of water here. Impalas have been seen around, wildebeest, including buffalo bulls, go through this area. And that's why they're actually quite alert. So even though we say that they sleep for 6 to 12 hours a day, maybe even longer at some points, they hardly ever get a good rest for a solid couple of hours. It's usually short bursts of a few minutes until something draws their attention, and then they awake again. Also, if we think about it, an animal like this expends a massive amount of energy when it goes out and hunts, being the top predator. So it needs its rest. Mazoos, what's the use of all that hair on the neck, above and below? Well, with the lion's mane, I know that there is a couple of studies that's been done, and some of the predominant theories are that it's for sexual attraction. And I know what they did is they designed and made some dummies, and they found that each time the lionesses were attracted to the one with the darker mane more often. But then there's also the theory that where those hair is, or where that hair is, it's quite thick, and it protects them when they're fighting. Male lions do roam around. They do often have to reassert their dominance in certain areas. And when they do have a fight, the thick hair protects them in the vital spots around the jugular, the neck, and right up onto the shoulders. At least that's a theory. But also talking about fights, what I found, at least with these two, what we've noticed is that they often look like they've been in fights and been having a hard time, when in fact they've just been fighting with the rest of the pride around a carcass. But I do know that this male in particular, on his rump, he bears the scars. He was caught on his own far off in the western side of the reserve by two roaming males. That's actually quite a lot larger than him and his brother. And I think the two of them gave him a pretty hard time. In fact, we were actually wondering at one point whether he might die or not. And then, in classical male lion style, he just bounced back after a few weeks. As you can see, he's very, very protective. He's listening and looking constantly into the bush. Anything that might approach, I'm pretty sure he's going to make sure that he protects this lioness.
Yeah, when it comes to male lions, you wear your battle scars on you. Proud. And obviously all the fighting that they go through. We are still enjoying the hive of activity here by these beautiful and complex little birds. Some nice ones if you want to take a look at. But they are very busy. There's a lot of activity, and you can see they're coming in almost like waves. These nests can support anywhere from 10, 15 up to 500 birds in large nests such as these over here. And if you're ever interested, and if you're ever in Tswalu or in an area where you have the luxury of looking at these birds, you can get a rough estimate on how many birds are in a nest by looking at the holes and timesing it by 2. Evalia, how do you tell male and female weavers apart? So with these guys, they are
in Yarusi. So back to our lion who is sleeping, and I think we found another one who is just hiding in the bushes. So we've counted the number to 3, and I think that lioness was paying attention to one of that was crossed over in the other side. So this is a very nice spot to have 3 brothers together, and I think when they walk in that mode, when there are 3 of them, they're going to conquer a very wide range of territories. So I saw them by the riverside, the River Pride area. I saw them by the Lolo, and now they're here at the Mugoro. So it seems like they're having a very, very big lap where they're patrolling, and I think they want to conquer these areas. I can see Olashe just by himself, and that means that when they encounters these 3, I'm not sure whether he's going to win that fight. So still going to sit here watching this guy as he sleeps. Let me take you over to another live location.
Alright, so welcome back. Great question was asked there, how do we tell male and female apart with sociable weavers? Male and female look similar in appearance, but if you take a look at, there we go, David's going to get in there for us, what they call the throat patch. So there'll be a black line running around the basal section of the beak, and then going down to the throat, you'd find there will be a little black patch. It almost looks like a bib. A bib is obviously in birding terminology is a bit further down on the chest or breast section. So throat patch, whereas in the female's throat patch will be smaller than that of the male. So a nice easy telltale sign of that of male and female, but otherwise in appearance they are fairly similar in appearance. There's another one there for us, David. I don't know if the branch is in the way actually. Might be, yeah. Oh, there it's moved. So there you can see the throat patch just underneath the beak. That's what I'm talking about. So female will have a smaller throat patch. And only over a period where you watch these birds in and out day after day, are you obviously able to pick up the size vary between male and female. So there's the patch perfectly displayed, and that is specifically on the throat section of this bird. Beautiful little black scale-like patterning there just underneath the wing. What an amazing view that is. Lorene, how many birds are in these nests? There'd be a lot of birds here. So if you'd ever want to get a rough estimate, I could go underneath and take a look how many entrances are within the nest, and then times that by 2. Then you can get a rough estimate of how many birds are within this nesting colony. This colony I would put easy to about 200-300 birds here, if not a bit more. This is a fairly extensive nest, and one that's been used for a very long time. And look at the size of that. So a nice rough gauge on how to allow a person to understand how many birds are in a nest site like this. So counting the number of entrances and timesing that by 2. Well, it's been fantastic having you guys on board with us, and it's been absolutely wonderful, and what a pleasure it's been having you with us. And sharing things like this is definitely very, very special. Still very busy, so you can see they're all coming back, maintaining the nest, bringing the nest material back to the nest site, feeding the chicks. And this is what they do throughout the day, continuously. They do not stop. It's like they have a shot of caffeine on drip continuously. Be sure to join us this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. From now until then, we'll see you later.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins.